Welcome to something special. Welcome to TEDx. This TEDx event is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner of the world. In schools, in theaters, in workplaces, even in prisons, people gather to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. More than 3,000 TEDx events are held every year in 170 countries. It's a remarkable thing. TEDx events are self-organized under a license from TED, a non-profit organization devoted to discovering and sharing powerful ideas in the form of TED Talks. It's not TED itself, but your local TEDx team of volunteers that has done all the work to put on today's event, including booking all of the speakers. It's this team's ideas, dedication, and time that have made this possible. We really hope today's program sparks an exciting conversation. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you will take out. And now, on with the show.
Hello, and welcome to TEDxYouth AISVN 2020. My name is John Tran, and I will be the MC for this event. As you know, due to COVID-19 restrictions, we have decided to make our show and take it to the virtual space. However, we promise to still provide you with that same authentic experience as previous years. This year, we've gathered 4 brilliant speakers, each coming from different walks of life. They all have their own unique story to share, and I believe that it's our mission to provide them with the right venue in order to voice their narratives. We hope that you are ready, and let's begin this journey with us. Our first speaker here today is Khoi from grade 11 at AISVN, who will be speaking about the bandwagon effect and the dangers of social media.
If we were to take a time machine and travel back in time, what would we see? In my opinion, the world of 100 years ago is vastly different than the world of today. Thanks to the innovations of our forefathers, modern humans live a very technocentric lifestyle. And the benefits of technology can be seen all around us, through the phones in our pockets, to the display powering our presentations today. While the benefits of technology couldn't be more transparent, there are also downsides to this problem. As we can see, teenagers are spending more and more time, up to 7 hours of their day, on social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, video entertainment applications, TikTok, YouTube. With this new age of technology also comes a rise of more internet-dependent jobs. For example, the role of the influencers. They are people who rely on sponsorships and advertisement as ad revenue to make money, and a common characteristic that they share are their large followings on social media platforms. That is not my primary concern. What I'm more concerned about are there are young children, due to the internet's accessibility, traversing these sites daily. While they're already exposed to the pre-existing dangers such as pedophilia and harassment, I also want to address the more hidden dangers, such as influencers and social media and also companies trying to exploit them under the disguise of raising awareness, but actually for profit. Then, how do we plan to solve these problems? Actually, as a matter of fact, I don't think it is possible to completely detach yourself from society, from technology. Social media and technology has deeply rooted itself onto our culture and onto our livelihoods. So I don't really recommend you to try, but you are very well welcomed. As a member of the Gen Z, I fully understand the need to keep updated with the trends, as I too have perfected my WAP dance. But that is besides the point, because really, we need to understand how these trends can impact us physically and mentally. We need to understand how our trends can hurt us, and through the use of thorough researching and also fact-checking, we need to understand how these trends often affect the cultural and religious backgrounds and how it affects them. An example of this would be the fox eye trend, where it shows people of non-Asian descent stretching out their eyes. But actually, this is racist towards Asian people who have received harsh treatments due to the nature of their eyes, forcing some into double eyelid surgery, for example. Now, I'm sure that all of you have experienced your own fair share of internet embarrassment, myself included. But the story that I am going to present to you is more deeply rooted into who I am as a person. And this is something that took me a lot of courage and a lot of power to go up here and share it to you. So, flashing back to 2014, I just got over my first ever Instagram account, and I was planning to run a photography account. Because through the eyes of a 14-year-old, anyone can be a photographer if you have a camera. Am I right? Well, I've quickly uploaded my first ever photo with like 30 hashtags and a beautiful, deep Instagram caption like every other 12-year-old kid. But the matter of fact is, I only got 40 likes. Only 40. But I was happy. It was my first ever Instagram post. 40 likes is a lot. But then as I kept uploading, I kept getting smaller and smaller amount of likes. 30, 20, 15. And before I realized it, I developed social media addiction. I became obsessed with numbers. More specifically, how to gain more of them. Then I came into a cycle of self-depravity and self-hatred. Why can't I replicate the same success? Why can't I be as good as the other people? And I grew to hate myself. My self-esteem was killed. But luckily, with the help of my friends and my family, I was able to pull myself out of this dark time. A privilege that I believe that a lot of teenagers often do not get. Now, we need to understand how much social media has impacted our lives. Then we need to understand the people that play a role in it, the social media influencers. I have selected 3 for us to analyze and compare and contrast. Here we have with the first one. Case study number 1. Here we have influencers. They are TikTokers. They are Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio. They are known for their TikTok dance covers, and they have a combined following of 135 million people. That is a lot. Now, if you take a look at what they do, they're often doing dance covers and also a lot of collaborations with other big brands like Prada and Chanel. But the most important thing is that they also use their platform for good purposes. Like when Charlie talked about the Black Lives Matter movement, or when they did adverts on body positivity campaigns. I think that is an incredibly good thing, that they are raising awareness and promoting a good cause. Now, moving on to the next case study. Number 2, Mr. Beast. Now, he is somewhat a personal hero of mine, Mr. Beast. Known for his YouTube channel, and more specifically his challenges online where his participants can get a large sum of cash if they succeed the challenge, of course. But the thing that earned my respect for him the most is his Team Trees initiative. Launched in 2019, Team Trees is an initiative where people can donate money to plant trees, evidently. But the more important thing is that Team Trees has raised 22 million trees as of 2020. The amount of impact that this initiative had on the environment is huge. And I would like to thank Mr. Beast for using his platform in such a good manner, something that a lot of influencers do not do, which is why we should move on to our next and final case study. Case study number 3, J Station. Now, this guy is absolutely deplorable, someone that you should not follow in any form or manner. So if we take a look at his content, he basically does a lot of clickbaiting videos where he exploits the deaths of recently passed celebrities for money. Imagine being a relative of those people who recently passed and see that another person has used their death as a monetary gain. I believe that everyone should not follow this guy because he's an example of what a bad influencer is. Now, I don't believe that every influencer are bad. They're actually really good. But we also need to understand that they are, at the end of the day, they need to make money. And so does the companies. And so a lot of the companies and influencers, they create these trends, not basically to generate revenue. Not all of them, but most of them do. I'm going to pick a harmless example. It's the Blackpink Awesome Scream, Awesome Camera, Strong Battery Life dance trend as an example of this. On the surface, it might seem to be a harmless dance trend on TikTok. But if we dive deeper into it, it's actually an advert for the next coming Samsung phone. Now, for all my life, I've held up to this one value, is that if you do something nice and you stick a camera up to it, then it's just for money. And I believe that a lot of these modern time trends are doing something like that. They're doing raising good awareness. But if the goal of the product is not from here, but from your pockets, then it is something else. It is advertisement, not awareness. And thank you for listening to my TEDx speech.
What a wonderful speech from Khoi on the negative impact of social media and the bandwagon effect. Now, we have a very, very special guest. We have now Mr. Nguyen, the IMP company CEO, who will be delivering a speech on developing relationships with successful people.
A little bit more than 2 years ago, I faced a dilemma. I had to choose between going to Ireland to study a master's degree with full scholarship from the government, or staying in Vietnam and keep managing the company that I co-founded. There were serious pros and cons for each option, but I won't go into detail about them today. After several days of torturing myself over the choices, I brought it up to my friends who were successful business owners, and their advice helped me make up my mind. I went to Dublin to study and had the best year of my life. That year also made me a better businessman with a stronger business foundation and the ability to lead my company through crises such as COVID-19. Those successful friends have become my source of guidance. By learning from them, I'm able to save a lot of time, money, and effort. Thanks to them, I'm confident that I'm on my way to becoming successful in both career and life. Motivational speaker Jim Ross stated that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And although successful people might seem a little bit intimidating, being around them brings about many benefits. A good relationship with people who have more than us, not in terms of only wealth, but also life experience, can foster our growth significantly. Even though there are more and more opportunities for us to build up relationship with them, such as networking events, training workshops, and mentoring programs, not many of us, especially young people, learn how to leverage those chances because we lack the skill to do so. Recognizing how lucky I am to have those valuable friends in my life, I am trying to give back to the community by becoming a mentor to young professionals and entrepreneurs. Sitting at both sides of the table helped me realize that it is actually not very hard to build a good network with people who have more than you, in terms of not only wealth, experience, but maybe who have achieved impressive feats in life. There are only 5 simple practices that any of us can do right away. The first one is to know your motivation. To tell the truth, the idea of approaching and talking to successful people is a little bit scary. I still remember the time when I couldn't say anything to them, or when I was so nervous to shake their hand properly. A little bit of reflection helped me realize that I was intimidated because of my own insecurities, which were rooted by my own self-comparison and lack of clear motivation. And then I discovered the solution, which is to answer the question, why do I want to have a good relationship with successful people? This question clarifies my primary motives for approaching them. I want to be friends with them, not because of cool pictures on social media, where I tag them in to show up to the world, saying, hey, I know famous people. I also do not want to gain their money because I'm not selling anything or asking for any favor. Successful people are smart. They can quickly recognize the intention and decide to not waste their time. What I want to gain from those relationships is their wisdom. And the only thing I need to sell is my eagerness to learn. That motivation puts me in a much easier position where I don't have to dress up or talk smart to impress those people. The only thing I need to do most frequently is to ask questions and then pay close attention to what they have to share. Because my feelings and action are authentic, I don't have to put a lot of pressure on myself and on the relationship that I'm trying to build. The next practice is to be clear on what you want to learn. Which area do I want to improve? This question directs me to the people who can help me the most because they have the attributes that I'm working hard to develop. It also helps transform generic and false conversation into valuable coaching or mentoring sessions. I can focus on describing the situation that I'm not doing well, and then they are able to give me actionable insights and feedback to change. Being a mentee and a mentor at the same time, I can testify that people love to advise other people who genuinely want to learn and can benefit from their opinion or experience. These 2 simple questions have the power to make it more confident and effective in starting and nurturing the relationship that we want to have. However, there's one more thing that successful people love more than advise the right person, and that is to see the result of their contribution. It leads me to point number 3, to show your appreciation. One of the most joyful moments of being a mentor, a manager, or even a friend is to know that there's another person who has grown because of my contribution. It took time and energy to listen to the other side situation and then to share the most relevant stories or the most appropriate advice. Hence, I'm proud to know that my effort has paid off, and this feeling has been validated by my mentor and successful friends too. So please share with your friends how you apply their teachings into your life and your work and the results from the actions. You can tell them face to face, via email, in the thank you note, or even in a messenger. This simple action can make their day and bring them a joy that money can't buy. And by doing so, you are improving your relationship with them. Best practice number 4 is to care. A relationship is a two-way street. For it to be developed further, you need to keep on adding values to their life. But it doesn't need to be much. There is a simple question that has helped me with this tip, and that is, what do I know that might be beneficial to them? Successful people are normal people too. There's always something they need and want. Some example, maybe they want to be able to run longer miles without interruption. They want to hire a new helper to help clean their house, or they're having a bedpan and is looking for a cue. The list goes on with all the daily normal concerns. And if by chance you know the answers to the question, or you know the people who do so, please share it with them. This simple action shows that you care about them by listening to their stories or by observing them. By doing so, you are not only adding value to their lives, but also strengthening your relationship with them. Believe it or not, by giving one book on Buddhism to a businessman who is very interested in that topic, I started a great friendship that is still going strong. The final practice is to be patient. Successful people are busy. It is normal for them to prioritize their work, family, and personal hobbies over you. So if some of them do not respond to your request, don't take it personally and be discouraged. Good things take time. Many people will appreciate your enthusiasm and want to add value to your life. Keep asking, seeking, and adding value to their lives too. And after a while, you will find yourself with a good network with people who want to help you grow tremendously. In conclusion, it is no exaggeration to say that my relationship with successful people are among my most important assets in life. By learning from them, I'm able to save a lot of time, money, and effort from doing the wrong things or going into the wrong direction. Moreover, they are living the life that I aspire to, with loving family, great hobby, and excellent health. By hanging around with them, I know why they have what they have and start to change my mindset and behavior accordingly. I have accumulated those resources over the year by applying the 5 practices that I have shared with you today. Know your motivation. Be clear on what you want to learn. Show your appreciation. Show your care. Be patient. Those are 5 simple and actionable practices that any of us can do right away. Let's apply them today and develop great friendship that can transform your career and your life. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing such an insightful experience with that speech, Mr. Quan. Now, for something a little bit different, let's welcome Cung My, a senior here at AISVN, as she'll be performing Fantasy Impromptu by Chopin on the piano. What an absolutely beautiful piece performed by me. Next up, we have Pham, an AISVN sophomore, who will be talking about societal judgment.
Think back. At least once in your life, you all must have negatively judged or made an assumption about someone. You might look at someone with a tattoo sleeve and automatically think that they're unsafe to be around. You might also look at someone who wears a revealing dress and think that they're promiscuous. Everybody had these thoughts. But have you ever realized that you apply the same set of expectations to yourself? In today's society, where the spread of judgments and information is rapid, it is unavoidable for us to find fault not only within others, but also ourselves. Our society aggressively creates unrealistic expectations and builds its own idea of perfection. And as we are raised in this rigid society to believe in the judgments oppressed upon us and these strict ideals, we unconsciously create unrealistic expectations for others as the result of our own insecurities. The cycle goes on and never truly stops, unless we change the way that we think. You might not realize this, but there are so many more unrealistic societal pressure that has been put on you. These are the set of likable characteristics that society has deemed to be acceptable and are enforced on individuals to achieve such expectation. They expect you to be an A+ student in all subjects, an artistically blessed person, an athlete, a socially popular person, and a good-looking person with a perfect body, and so much more. How can anyone achieve all of these expectations? No one can be perfect at everything. Even those who are considered perfect, they have flaws. To add on, societal expectations are constantly changing through different eras. For example, back in the Renaissance, the ideal standard would be considered as fat today, while now being skinny is the bare minimum to being considered as beautiful. In fact, 94% of teenage girls and 65% of teenage boys have been body shamed. Let that sink in. These are teenagers, the future of our world, yet their minds are kept occupied by the misery of failing to meet constantly changing societal standards when they don't understand what truly is beautiful. I'm Pham, and not only am I a victim of today's society, unfortunately, I'm also a part of it. As much as I advocate the toxicity of the societal ideals, I still unconsciously strive to achieve them. Personally, I struggle a lot with keeping my sane while trying to maintain my status with keeping up with the constantly changing standards. Like everyone, I have insecurities, perhaps a lot of them. Because if you personally know me, I'm known as that happy friend. But I picked upon all of my traits. I hated the way that I looked, the way that I act, the way that I couldn't finish things at the pace my peers were, the way that I was imperfect at anything, and the way that I was so sensitive. I would compare myself to those who I considered better than me, and then beat myself up for not achieving what they had achieved. I ranked myself amongst others because I wanted to be the best in my class or the best in my school, but knowing truly that I couldn't do that put me in tremendous rage. I would go home every day and cry myself to sleep because I was not meeting the expectations that my friends or my brother set for me. For my brother, he was known for having high academics achievements and the leaders of many events. Knowing all of his achievements, I cannot help but feel like I have to achieve what he achieved, or at least be as talented as he was. I was drowning in all the things I wanted to achieve, but I couldn't, simply because I'm a human. I spent all my time stressing on what I could do and what I should achieve, instead of my existing potential. I had enough of it, but I couldn't stop. What did I do then, you may ask? Well, I don't want to just bluntly lie that I found my self-worth or that I'm perfect just the way that I am. But instead, I use a toxic coping method to deal with my insecurities. I found those who I consider as inferior to me and compare myself to them instead. How did this work out? Well, for the first few weeks and months that I did this, I admit it felt much better because finally I was beating someone. But after a while, my situation got worse than it was before. I was not only living so that I could potentially beat someone, and I was just find more insecurities about myself as I criticized them. When in reality, the people that I criticized that was not inferior to me, I would feel like I had failed. Not until recently did I realize what I was actually doing. I realized that I could not depend on this degrading coping method all my life so that I could feel better about myself while others were miserable because of my words. As I'm changing, I found out how society operated in the same way to spread their unrealistic ideals. As a member of the Vietnamese community, I have to admit that despite our amazing traditions, our community is, in general, insensitive about comments about appearances, especially in the way we market our products that are suitable only to specific ideals, most notably about body image and skin tone. It is normal for friends and family to comment on someone's weight or someone's skin tone, saying that, oh, you look better back then. You were skinny and fair. For example, my mom, the person who has raised me my whole life, is a heavy contributor to the spreading of unrealistic ideals. Even though my mom's weight is medically healthy, she still struggles a lot with her insecurities about her weight. She didn't always have this fear until the subconscious thoughts of her society told her, oh, if you gain weight, you should go to the gym. Oh, you would look much better if you were skinnier. Oh, these are the largest size we sell in every store. She steered away from the outside world and only went out if only she wore black clothing, since apparently the media told her it would make her look skinnier. For the rare times that she did went out and see a heavier, confident person, she would scrunch her eyebrows and say, "Cái tướng như vậy mà dám mặc đồ hở ra đường," which can be roughly translated into, a body like her has the guts to wear that outside. This was when I confirmed my logic worked. She was insecure from the societal pressure that has been put on her. Then she went to apply similar judgments to someone else. It is common to think that only teenagers, those who are rebels and attention seekers, are the only one that experiences this. However, insecurity seeps deeply within our mindset and remains throughout our childhood, throughout our adulthood. It's because we crave the validation from society. We believe that the only way that we would be considered as beautiful is if we fit in with others' preferences. As we strive to achieve society's desires, we continue to feel it as we buy products to make ourselves more desirable, further criticizing others to meet ideals and contributing to the advocacy of unrealistic standards. So, how exactly do you stop further spreading unrealistic ideals? Just simply stop caring. Stop caring about where you stand to others, but rather where you stand to yourself. Now, this is easier said than done, because of course, there's always that little part in you that longs for the acceptance of others. But personally, I found it helpful to view those comments as only constructive feedback, because of course, you have the choice to change it or not. If you feel like you're changing yourself to make yourself happier in general, then please do it. But if you feel like you're changing yourself just to avoid those comments and to satisfy others' preferences, do not change a bit. While doing this, please keep in mind that your happiness should stay as first priority. Learn to love yourself, as selfish as this may seem, because when you love yourself, loving others will come. This means that you should aim to always be better, not to just reach a goal and then stop. It is easy to do this, however, I still struggle with it. But recognizing this issue had made me more informed about my insecurities and the many more ways I could solve my issues than just to bring others down. To conclude, we all have insecurities. We all have flaws. So why bring others down to make them feel the misery that we feel when the problem is our attitude and our perspective? Taking our insecurities and transforming them into the advocacy of unrealistic expectations will not only worsen our society, our insecurities, our self-hatred, but creates long-term impossible standards. Being in this world means that you're going to be judged, but you have the choice to care or not. To care is to accept that you are never enough. To care is to contribute to the normalizing of unrealistic standards. To care is to enable the toxic cycle of society to go on. Be rebels towards society's desire, not society. Thank you.
Societal judgment is something that's really big in today's modern time. What an incredible job done from Hannah with that heartfelt speech. And now, last but certainly not least, it's Alexander, a junior from SSIS, and his topic on growth from a negative mindset.
Now, when I entered my first fighting game tournament, I believed myself to be, at the very least, competent enough to make it 4 rounds in, you know. I'll just do my best and leave satisfied. Being the naturally talented brainlet I am, I won! Not. About 4 minutes after the tournament had started, I had lost my first round without even winning a single point, and proceeded to lose my next one in the loser's bracket, disqualifying me. As I sat back and took a couple of ragged breaths, I began to realize that the mountain that I had been climbing in my quest to become good had just been, in fact, a hill, and that beyond it lay a countless amount of mountains left to explore and survive. As I sat on that hilltop, it was quiet, with the only thing permeating through the air being the realization that I was bad, like really bad. And so I found myself at a familiar crossroad, dig my heels in and continue or go home. My entire life had been filled with people who stayed within the boundaries of their natural talents and parents who told me that I was going to become a computer scientist. And so, for the first time, I'd be actively venturing out into the unknown. As I started my first steps up that mountain, experimenting and failing countless times, I began to realize that failure and anger is the key to living a purposeful life. So today I want to talk about how I trained to become comfortable with discomfort, initially using 3 rules. 1, check your ego. 2, remove your options. And 3, never stop tryharding. As I sat on that hilltop, looking out into this mountainous range of stuff I couldn't even begin to comprehend and execute, I began to realize that I needed to change the way in which I thought. I began telling myself, actually, you do suck. What did you expect? You would play for 3 months and become one of the big boys? You are nothing compared to some of the people here. And no one gives a damn but you. I forced myself to watch replays of my previous matches and began to see how selective my memory had been. I remembered the loss streaks against I remember the win streaks against the newcomers to the game and forgot the loss streaks against the veterans. As much as I didn't want to admit it, I was afraid of being told that I was bad above anything else. And to say that I'm alone in this fear would be incorrect as well. Fear of .NET lists the fear of public speaking and of failure as among the top 10 highest phobias. But, as it turns out, being an immature brainlet actually helped me. I let shame and rage naturally wash out my fear, and I beat myself up. I hated myself, and let that fuel my growth. I began forcing myself to challenge everyone I met, and when I lost, I chose to be angry. I let every mistake I made get beaten into my fingers, and every win became a confirmation of their power. I put my rage above my personal vulnerability, and in that, I was unconsciously growing a negative growth mindset. This negative growth mindset gave me the fuel to continue climbing. Of course, as time went on and my anger wore off, I grew confident in my ability again, this time accepting that I would never be perfect. I am nothing. Therefore, I can be anything. As I slowly began to encapsulate this mindset, I realized that winners pursued loss and losers idolized wins. Like fighting game pro Daigo Umehara, I had come to realize that wins and losses are merely markers in our own stories of personal development. So while I recommend you start with anger and shame, anger fueling success is never sustainable and will always end up with you on top, unsatisfied, and alone. To find joy and meaning in our exploits is to carefully balance our ego and our desire to grow. So rule number 1, check your ego. Around the same time that I'd gone into my fighting game, I'd also gotten into running as well, and I'd hit a block. I needed more reason to start running consistently. Unlike fighting games, running was mostly a solo climb, with you only climbing against the mountain itself. This is where rule number 2 comes in. Remove your options. There is a 1974 Stanford experiment in which scientists left children alone in a room with a marshmallow, telling them that if they didn't eat it for 15 minutes, they would get another one. The children who succeeded were shown to be much more successful in terms of happiness and achievement later in life, but they weren't just using their willpower, or in my case, anger, for that delayed gratification. Out of all the children who succeeded, a vast majority decided to sing songs, dance, talk to themselves, or even hide their eyes. They chose to remove eating the marshmallow as an option altogether. A light bulb went off in my head. Was willpower a finite source? Yes. Did I have a lot of it? No. And so I joined a running club with some friends. I ran for charity. I had my friends take away my computer and I downloaded a self-control app on my phone. I used social pressures to remove my opportunities to flake out and had all the things I used to relax locked away, saving my anger for running that extra kilometer. More importantly, I had found a way to remove my opportunities to be sad. By filling in the in-betweens of my life with work and practice, I was able to circumvent my ability to be sad. I had no time to worry about how people viewed me because, oh crap, I need to start running 4 kilometers in the next 2 minutes. Use your sadness to propel your anger. God damn it. Why did I say that to him? This is probably one of the hardest things to get past, at least for me, when it comes to climbing new mountains. In a world where social media and distractions permeate through the very air we breathe and our identities are reduced down to our physical and innate natures, I believe that simplifying our lives into opportunities clears the path for growth. It allows us to focus on that one idea. I want to do this. And so I will. That is rule number 2. Remove your options. Finally, rule number 3. Never stop tryharding. Now, for those of you who don't play video games, a tryhard has a simple definition. Someone who tries hard at something. They don't relax, they don't calm down, and they don't even look like they're having fun. And so on the outside, people tend to characterize them as no-lives. And to me, originally, being the smooth-brained couch potato I was, related to that sentiment. But on closer inspection of the common tryhard and my eventual assimilation into the role, I've come to realize that it is actually they who extract the most satisfaction and joy through their respective passions through a simple idea known as flow. The state of flow, or being in the zone, is a state of complete absorption in one's task as a result of perceived skill peaking at perceived difficulty. It's when your pupils dilate, your brain is completely stimulated, your movements are instinctual yet also calculated, and your sense of time melts away. By constantly trying hard and pushing themselves, the tryhard is in constant pursuit of flow. No excuses, no breaks, never satisfied. It is in the state of flow in which we grow most efficiently. They have no clue as to the concept of the relativity of hills versus mountains because they get angry anyways. Now you may ask why the tryhard, being as hated as they are by society, continue to try hard. It is because of one thing, and one thing only. They care. Their faces grow red, they scream obscenities, and they break their controllers, and yes, it is childish, but it shows that they care. And caring is the most fundamental part of flow. You can't enter flow if you're doing something you don't care about or were peer pressure to do. You can't enter flow if at the slightest bit of pushback you quit. It's all about satiating your intrinsic desires, whether that be video games, video editing, sports, or whatever. I began to play angrily, and I expressed it when I felt it. Hours spent doing mundane tasks were now filled with furious visualization as I relived embarrassments and tried to find solutions, unconsciously training my brain to react a little faster, a little more accurately. In a world where peer pressure and ostracism have grown exponentially as a result of the internet, I have come to deeply respect those who are brave enough to get angry and keep at it, regardless of if they succeed or fail. It is with these ideas in mind that I've come to attempt to inherit the best traits of the tryhard, their unbridled passion in the pursuit of flow and the death of those authoring their future, while leaving behind their angry outbursts and potential burnout, saving that spark for the beginning of learning. It doesn't matter if you're great. It doesn't matter if you suck. What matters is that you care. That is rule number 3. Never stop tryharding. Using these 3 rules, I found success and drive in the things that I wanted to accomplish. I started running every other day, and the next fighting game tournament I joined, I placed second. I recently started getting into competitive dance games, and I went from this, looking basically like a penguin on thin ice, to this in about a month. But more importantly, I had inadvertently opened my horizons to so many different outlets in which I could live. In my pursuit of competency and greatness, I had unlocked an openness that I never had before. I can be wrong, and I can always be better. My entire life, I lived in fear of my parents, the very people who I believe never validated me. And just last week, I initiated a conversation with them about the nature of our relationship. I accepted my mistakes and took their concern in anger. It slowly morphed into a more sustainable mindset, with me climbing those mountains not because of the voices coming from its base, but from the joy in climbing a little higher. Not negative, not positive, just down the middle. Being bad was just life, and so I stopped being so afraid. So I fell off some mountains I didn't care about. I engaged in public speaking to stand up to ideas I disagreed with and began to realize that people worth engaging don't make fun of you for being new, but respect you for trying. On a larger scale, I believe that this idea is something that is extremely prevalent today, with our realization that in our comfort we have been complicit in racism, inequality, in violence. But I'll put my 2 cents in on the matter as a form of exercise. And if you disagree with me, you can come to me after the talk and change my mind. This new era of internet activism seems cheap. And the fact that I've seen people say things like, if you know a homophobe, direct message me and I'll beat the crap out of them, is so alarmingly hypocritical in its intention and effect that it scares me. Of course, acts of sexism have been so overwhelming in their large and small scale effects that anger is completely understandable. But if there's anything I've learned from my self-experimentation, it's that not everybody absorbs anger in the same way. If I'm angry, I direct it at myself and turn it into something productive. If I'm angry at someone else and I just shove that onto them, who knows how they'll handle that anger? By saying things like that, you're adding fuel to the fire and leaving all productivity, in this case, understanding and changing one's mind, to ash. Direct your anger and fight the system, not its people. There must be a better way. As said by Obama on the topic of cancel culture, that's not activism. That's not bringing about change. If all you're doing is casting stones, then you're probably not going to get that far, because that's easy to do. Cancel culture feeds off our fragility and fear of the unknown. And I believe that we need to start accepting, start listening, and start using the trauma and hate that surrounds us on a daily basis to fight back productively. The joy of activism is not necessarily being right, but the journey of becoming better, more critical, and more vulnerable. Looking back, I realize now that anger is just the shield we use to hide our fear and shame, and that if we keep using it to develop as people, it'll eventually break. So it's okay to cry. It's okay to be awkward or to ask for help. We just need to find our footing, grit our teeth, and push beyond our tears. Anger is a start, but never the end. It'll get us into space, but it won't necessarily put us on the moon. Using the discipline that I had gained from this process, I began appreciating my opportunities to fail rather than get angry at them. I didn't need that spark anymore. As a part of the new generation, I feel as if we are always two extremes, too closed and afraid when we are left alone, and violently outspoken when we are in groups. We stick to toxicity if it keeps us climbing together, and accept insecurity if it keeps us from climbing alone. And if we ever want to see a future in which humanity can thrive truly and fully, I believe that we need to start by asking ourselves and the people around us difficult questions. Whether that be about our skills, our loneliness, our social expectations, or our excuses. And to say that I've fully come to terms with being comfortable with discomfort would be an understatement. But I would never give away the months of pain and suffering I put myself through to reach the me now. This is who I am now and who I was later. And this is what I got. I refuse to believe that our reality is static. This speech in itself is the first step for me to become someone that I can look up to. And I can guarantee for a fact that looking back on it, relative to me before and me after it, that I'll be proud. I realize now that it is in the pursuit of perfection do we become the greatest versions of ourselves. It's in putting in that extra time to perfect a combo. It's in running that extra kilometer. It's in standing up and fighting for what you believe to be true. It's about getting bored with the things you love and sticking with it. And you want to know a secret? Being the best you can be is in its own way perfection. And it all starts with those mountains. It all starts with I want this. It all starts with keeping that flicker of desire alive. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Alexander, you've done a brilliant job presenting for the final talk for this event. But the show's not over. Please welcome V and Jessica for their duet of Someone You Love by Lewis Capaldi to conclude the show.
This time I fear there's no one to save me. This all or nothing really got a way of driving me crazy. I need somebody to heal, somebody to know, somebody to have, somebody to hold. It's easy to say, but it's never to say. I guess I kinda like the way you numbs all the pain. How the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down and then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love. Stay bad, but it feels just a little bit bigger now. I was on the radio, but it don't sound the same. When our friends talk about all the touch, just hear me down. 'Cause my heart breaks a little when I hear your name. It all just sounds like ooh, ooh. Too young, too dumb to realize that I should have bought you flowers and held your hands. Should have gave you all my hours when I had the chance. Take it boy, 'cause all you wanted to do was dance. Now my baby's dancing, but she's dancing with another man. And I to close my eyes when it hurts sometimes. I fall into your arms. I'm saving sound to come back around. And I say please into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through. I let my guard down, and then you pulled around. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love. Now the day leads to nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. Let my guard down, and then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love. Let my guard down, then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love.
Thank you for that wonderful performance from V and Jessica. Through today's event, we hope that the goal of delivering the voices and thoughts from our brilliant speakers has been achieved, and that you, the audiences, learn some thoughts and ideas through this journey and are able to observe the world with more perspectives. As our theme, Sirius A suggests, your voices need to be heard, and that we believe your ideas are the brightest stars in the night sky. Don't let others tell you otherwise, and don't be afraid to show the world who you are. This event had been a major success, thanks to everyone in the organizing team. But most importantly, once again, a big thank you to our lovely speakers for having the courage to show up on stage and express their ideas in front of everyone who's watching. Without you four, the show couldn't go on. So now, I would like to invite all of our four lovely speakers back on stage to be awarded with their certificates for their excellent work and effort. Thank you so much to each and every one of you that have been enjoying the show and have been watching TEDx Youth at AISVN 2020. Tell us how you feel about it by filling out this survey. We hope you enjoy it and see you next year.